the scene everyone just saw at the end there, between Chris and his mother, because it's such a fantastic moment that lets us into this story that's a coming-of-age story, but also a mother-son family story. Can you talk a little bit about how you conceptualize it?
Yeah, well, I think the first couple drafts of this movie were much more like Stand By Me, Superbad coded, and there wasn't a ton of the family stuff, and I think I was really, at the time, inspired by trying to make this sort of like suburban childhood wasteland where you don't really see the parents. And then somewhere along the way in like 2018, 2019, I just really felt a desire to write about my family, and specifically my mom, the relationship between this boy and his mom. And then I think once I realized this was sort of a mother-son story, a love letter to my immigrant mom, kind of encased in the trappings of a movie like Stand By Me or Superbad, about adolescent friendships, once I just like allowed myself to kind of go down that rabbit hole, the movie really became alive. And then I think it's two things. The family dinner scene was always like the opening of the movie, and I always wanted that to be the opening of the movie, or like the first real scene. And it's the scene that sets up all the family dynamics, and it's a scene that goes from the quietest, most domestic portrait to cacophony, and they're all screaming over one another. You know, she says some weird stuff. And it was kind of like, okay, well then, if we're gonna end the movie on the quietest note, well, can we bring it back to that portrait of a family, but now the family's completely changed, and she's off to college, and you know, the relationship between the mom and grandma is still contentious, but it's different, like the feeling in the home has changed. And can we go back to where we started, but it's like the quietest moment, and it's also just a look between mother and son that is quiet, the quietest moment of the movie, and it's sort of a version of something we've seen throughout the entire movie of the mom trying to give attention to her son, and it's either never reciprocated, or he looks at her and then something is interrupted. There's some noise in the world, he eats the egg, or you know, he does something to interrupt the just seeing her. And I think that's what the ending is to me. It's like for the first time he really sees her without any distractions.
Yeah. I want to talk about the opening scene that mirrors that, as you mentioned, the big family meal. Shirley, you play Vivian and his sister, and you guys have this big fight in that meal. And you have a lot of fights in this movie. I'm curious how that was to find and to play with. Did you have fight choreo with?
Kind of. I think we did. Because a lot of the the family dinner scene, Isaac and I had done quite a lot because we did it for the callbacks together, like for chemistry reads, and then we also did it during the Sundance Lab. And so that was a lot of back and forth of like how do we fight, and during the lab, Shaun was playing a lot with the camera and figuring out that dynamic. And I think a couple of those lines, like the condom line,
How was Isaac going like, oh, I got a good line. I'm like, what is it? He's like, don't worry, just roll. I got you. He goes, you're only going to the broken condom. I was like, silence. We're like, whoa.
Yeah, taking notes. So yeah, that was discovered through the Sundance Lab, which we did in June, and we shot in like July, August. So I think there was like a bit of workshopping for all the fights. That was hard because I'm not mean with my brother. My brother's 8 years older than me, and he's really nice. Sorry, I had a blessed childhood. I'm kidding. Hashtag blessed. But no, that was something I had to find.
Deadpool?
40X. But yeah, so that was something that Isaac and I had to find, but we had a lot of fun doing.
Can you talk a little bit about what drew you to Vivian as a character?
Yeah, I think, oh gosh, there's a lot of period in your mouth. That line specifically, actually, I remember reading, I'm gonna period in your mouth and laughing out loud. Just be like, oh please, like let me get this one. But I think for me, like the story, the story of Chris and his friends, it's just not something that I'd ever really seen before, and it felt really special on the page. And Shaun writes like the messages in like Comic Sans, like pink Comic Sans. I was like, I've really never read a script like this. But I don't know, it was just a lot of fun, and I think I never got to play a character like her. So I got to cut my hair. I cut my hair for $40 in Chinatown for this role, and they were like, "Are you sure you want that?" And I was like, "Yes."
Her look is visceral.
Absolutely. I want to ask also, Chris's grandmother in this movie is your real life grandmother. Can you talk about working?
I love that reaction. Did you guys? Who didn't know that?
Oh wow.
Yeah, she's good.
Yeah, can you talk about directing your grandmother? She has some really fun, she has some intense scenes, but she also has some really fun moments. So can you talk about directing her and working with her?
Yeah, I mean, I think my grandma's just so natural. I think the reason I wanted, even considered casting her was I had made a short film with both of my grandmothers back in 2021, and what I learned on that one was both of them have this sort of magic to them. It's like what Shirley has, what Joan has, what Isaac has. It's like this sort of magnetism that you can put a camera on them and you just sort of fall in love and you have so much empathy for them. And Whitepool, and Nai was just too old for she's 97, but Whitepool is the age as scripted. And I think one thing about Whitepool, who plays Nai in this movie, is she's so charming, like you can't hate her. And that's what I needed for that role too. It was sort of like, she says a lot of like really messed up things, and she is an antagonistic force in the movie, but a lot of that, a lot of what she says, it does come from a place of love, right? It's just this sort of, how she expresses that love is very different. But again, it was a place of love, and I needed a character that could say all that stuff, but you couldn't help but love her. And so I was like, man, should we cast Whitepool? And for 2 years, I was just like, you're gonna play the grandma in this movie, right? Whitepool. And she's like, no. And then eventually we were like really putting the movie together, and then she was like, if you're that confident in me, I'll do it. And long story short, we ended up casting her, and that was the one I was just really nervous because I was kind of like, you know, there's all the skater kids and everyone in that world, and like they feel like first time. There's like a raw energy to them, but the family unit is, you know, Isaac, Shirley, Joan, which is all trained actors, and I was like, this should have a different energy. And then put my grandma in the middle of it. I'm kind of like, ooh, this could be a swing and a miss. My career's on the line, her career's on the line. But she really did her homework, and she had notes and thoughts, and I remember we cast her, I was like, okay, grandma, like, you're gonna wear a jade bracelet. And she was like, no, I don't think my character would wear a jade bracelet. And I was like, what? She was like, yeah, because she's always doing chores and, you know, washing the dishes. She's always doing chores around the house. I don't think she would wear a jade bracelet, it would get in the way. But you're the director. So, if you want, I was like, okay, no jade bracelet. And it was just, I remember we were gonna shoot the first scene with Joan. I was just like, I really, really hope this works. And I knew that she did her homework. She was really off book. And we rehearsed in the backyard, and I was like, okay, that was pretty good. And then Joan put her hand on my shoulder, and she goes, you have nothing to worry about. She's incredible. And then she walked away, and I was like, yeah, but we should like keep rehearsing. So how was your experience?
It was so much fun. I mean, Joan and Shaun's grandma got really close, and like my favorite scene in the film was the family dinner scene, because we shot it over 2 days, and we kept doing it like over and over. We basically had to do a carousel of the lines, like over and over, and then we would pause and wait for Whitepool's cue, and then she would like miss it sometimes. So then me, Isaac, and Joan were like, okay, we're gonna go back again, like back to the top, and she wouldn't realize, and then she'd catch her line, and she'd be like, show me your bitch, like what's bitch? And then sometimes it would make Joan break, and she would start laughing, it would have us all laughing, and I think it was like a really special moment, because like, here you have this real, like this like legend, right? Joan acting beside like me and Isaac, like some kids, and then Shaun's real grandma, and we can all just laugh around the table. I thought that was really special.
I think the way Joan says it that I really love is that at Whitepool's best, it's truly magic. When you have a non-performer at their best, it's like lightning in a bottle, but then it really is sort of on their shoulders also, because you know they know their lines and they know their cues and they know when to jump in, and that they have this experience. Whitepool is sort of like every take is slightly different, and you know she doesn't know when to jump in, and so they really have to be the water to help her kind of, you know, carry the scene. And so a lot of it is sort of the selflessness on their end as performers, because they very well could be like, oh, she's not hitting her lines. It was kind of this sort of like, okay, she's going left on this take, so we should go right to kind of help her out. And then I think when it clicks, it really, really, really clicks. But some takes are definitely like, we're gonna have to fix that in the edit.
I love that. I also want to ask you, Shirley, there's this moment that Vivian has in the story where she and Chris's relationship really changes, where he says, you know, why are you always so mean to me? And from that moment on, the story between them is different. Can you talk about finding that as an actor and also writing that as the director?
Yeah, I think for me, a lot of Vivian's, she's like, oh shoot, this is like the last moments I have with my little brother before I go to college, and like, how do I say everything I've ever wanted to say with him when all I've ever told him is I hate you in like various forms. And, like, I don't have the language to say I love you, or I don't have the language to even like offer a hand because you never asked me for help. And so I think for me it was a lot of like, what are all the ways that I can give love to this person and like test the boundaries of our closeness. And I feel like I try to do that a lot in the car scene, especially with like the looks of concern and I don't know, but also like always want to be a man. Like you also don't want to overstep, right? Yeah, you kind of like that, right, Shaun?
Still trying to do it.
Still trying to be like that. So I think it was a lot of like trying to find the right balance and feeling like I was trying to say I love you with just looking at him, just with my eyes, and communicate that.
Yeah, we talked a lot about that really, which was like you're trying to say I love you, but you can't say those words. So how do you do it? And it's, you know, it's in the scene where she's taking off the stickers. It's like, who are those people you've been hanging out with, right? Like that whole scene is her trying to be like, I care about you, but I can't. I literally don't have the language for it. And I think we kind of talked about that arc kind of being like, in the beginning, the norm is what they know. It's just they're not even yelling about anything. They're just yelling to yell. And she realizes over the course of the movie that Chris is just following in her, like she's the older sibling, so he's just following her lead. And so he's always yelling back, and like that kind of conflict of just, we're not even yelling about anything, we're just, this is all we know. And then that's kind of how that scene starts, where he comes back from the park, and then she's like, I'm just gonna do what I know how to do, which is, you know, banter and bicker. And then, you know, for the first time I think she's like, oh, I think I'm inflicting real pain on my brother. Like this is actually sort of, something is happening and I'm leaving soon. And again, I think the rest of the movie, then there's like a change of heart, but again, there's no vocabulary to express those emotions. One thing I really love in the movie though is when they do leave and she hugs him. I think we did 2 or 3 takes where it was like the awkward sibling hug. Cause I remember like the first time I hugged my sister, it was like, what the hell? Like, oh, I need to go shower. And it was like the sort of awkward, like, okay, bye. And we were like, okay, it's kind of working, but I think I told Shirley, I was like, on this next one, just like hug him like you mean it, like hug him like you really love him. And I didn't tell Isaac. And so that's the take in the movie, and I remember in the monitor, I was just like, got it, okay, I think that's in the movie, that's going in the movie. And I felt something on set with that take, and I don't know, I think it's again like, you know, I think the whole movie is that it's everyone trying to say a version of I love you, but not being able to say that. I don't think anyone ever says, well, except Chris to grandma, but in like a joking way. But like, have you eaten yet, right? That's like a form of I love you. Like apples on the ground, that's a form of I love you. And so it's everyone kind of learning to do their own version of it. And I think for them, it's not yelling at each other.
Bouncing off that, you know, with the breakdowns of communication, this movie takes place in 2008. Facebook has just arrived to people's lives. And there's a really great moment where Chris gets to see his sister's Facebook status about being upset about leaving home. And I'm wondering if you can talk a little bit about how social media is kind of, in your mind, informing how Chris is developing as a person.
Very turbulent. I don't know. I don't know if I honestly have a good answer to that. I think so much of this movie, what I was trying to do was not trying to explicitly comment on anything and just show things as they were and how it was felt, you know. And I think, you know, when I look back, it definitely was this more innocent time of social media where you were still sort of curating an image. But me and Isaac actually have different takes about this. But to me, like the internet back then was so much more pure. Like it was truly an extension of yourself. You weren't posturing as much. Like I look at me and my friends' Facebook statuses from when we were like 13, 14, and it's like, Shaun is hungry. It's like, cool. And now it's, you know, like, what am I gonna wear? Like, how am I gonna, you know, what angle? And so I think he was probably starting to realize like some performative element to him. But again, it's like the first time you can just see other people's thoughts. Like I remember just going on my sister's wall and being like, who's she talking to? You know, and just seeing wall conversations, and it's like, oh, okay. So I don't know if that answers your question, but yeah, I think for us also the internet wasn't good. We could do anything with the internet, and so some, like we were like, oh, we need something in that scroll to let people know where in the summer they are. It was always a good device to make sure you knew that there was a passage of time happening in the movie.
Yeah, and you mentioned Isaac having different thoughts on social media. I want to ask about working with Isaac and these teen actors that you hired, and how it was explaining 2008 to them.
Did I have to explain anything to you? You knew what MySpace was.
No, yeah, I knew.
Well, I think the only thing I really had to explain to them was the T9 texting and the flip phones, because that's the stuff they actually had to interact with, and it was a challenge, I'll tell you that. The first take we did with Isaac, like flipping open a phone, he like held it with 2 hands and held it like an iPhone. And I was like, dude, what are you doing? He was like, I don't know, what do I do? I'm like, go. He was like using his whole arm, and I was like, okay, just. It's the flick of the wrist. And so he had to like go sit in a corner and practice, and the scene where he's texting like haha lol sure, like he really was like, oh my god, this is, I was like, it's okay, don't worry about it, we're gonna cut to a full bleed, just move on. just get, you know, if we were rolling film, we'd roll our whole roll just off him texting. But I think with the MySpace stuff and the AIM stuff and the live journal, the bet that I took was that like the emotions that these kids feel from when I was 13 to when they're 13 now, and you know, when the kids in Stand By Me, like those emotions are always the same. And so I really didn't want to bog him down with like the intricacies of how MySpace works or what AIM is, and I didn't bother to explain it because it was like not important to me. Like what was important was the emotion. So even when we were sort of like, when he's reacting to that stuff and we built it in post, it wasn't like the MySpace cursor and he takes him off his top. It was like, think of a time when, you know, someone really close to you, you know, betrayed you, or like your best friend ditched you, and how did that make you feel? So I mean, I still don't know if he understands MySpace. Maybe he watches the movies like, I don't know what that is. The way he said it was, I imagined someone took me off my close friends on Instagram.
Oh.
See?
I'm curious, when you were writing a dialogue for this, was there anything that you referenced to kind of get yourself back in the headspace of a 13-year-old in 2008? Because I noticed like words like schlong, that I'm not sure kids today are saying that, but I know that was very 2008. So did you have any references that you called up to get your mind in that space?
I like how you said called up, like phone a friend. Well, I mean, Facebook statuses, you know, I was like in the movie, I felt like I was like the first, like the youngest generation to get on Facebook. Like my sister was on Facebook and I was on MySpace, and my sister was on LiveJournal and I was on Zynga. It was like that kind of divide of generations. And then a lot of me and my friends, like we were the youngest people on Facebook at one time. So like a lot of our 13-year-old selves you can find on Facebook. That digital footprint exists, which is horrifying. And I would go on my Facebook wall, on my friends' Facebook walls, and I'd be like, 2007. And I was like, whoof, screenshot. And sometimes you would write stuff, but you wouldn't say it. And so again, it was. I looked through my my yearbooks too, and I ended up making a short about it. But I feel like people still say strong.
I mean, I would say strong.
Well, actually, someone called us out because I tried very hard to not have any period inaccuracies, but apparently, okay, Pookie, that's like a Gen Z term.
Yeah, it came back.
Yeah.
Oh.
Pookie came back.
And I was like, Aaron, you know the assignment. Why would you do that to us? Pookie apparently is not period accurate, but I thought it was funny.
Yeah. I didn't catch it.
I didn't catch it, yeah.
No.
Anyone call? You guys get thrust out of the story? No? Okay.
I want to ask you about Joan Chen.
Legend.
Legend, incredibly moving performance. Talk about casting her and working with her. I want to hear it all.
I'll try to keep it short. The short of it is like what a gift she is to the movie, to my life, we were talking about this in the car, but I think that role, we always wanted to cast someone who was like a known actress in that role as much as we could, but again, I was also very, very, very cognizant of the environment I wanted to create on the set, and I didn't want, like, I really wanted to have like a summer camp environment, and like where there was no ego, it didn't feel like there was a hierarchy in terms of like cast and billing and all this stuff, and I think we succeeded at that. And you know, someone like Joan could have easily come on set and be like, what is all like these young actors, your grandma, like, you know, she's worked with the best directors in the world, but she has zero ego, like she's the warmest, most generous, obviously talented actress person. And I wish I had a better story of how we like, well, I guess it's a good story. I mean, we sent her the script, and you know, I wrote her a letter and got her the project in the traditional means, but we Zoomed first, and she didn't know how to turn on her camera. And so I spent 15, and I was like nervous, I'm like, oh, I'm talking to Joan. And I was just like, hey, she's like, one second, hold on. And it's just like quiet for 5 minutes. I was like, is this working? And I was just like, this is so weird. It felt awkward, but it's like kind of what my mom would do, so it was kind of perfect. And then I didn't have Zoom Pro too, so like we talked for a little bit, and then it was like, you're getting kicked out, and I was like, and then I was like, I don't know if that went very well. And then, long story short, we went for coffee again, and she was like, I think I might be too old for the part, but like I want you to want me to do it. And again, it goes back to her generosity. She's like, you've created such an authentic world that I don't want to be the piece that takes people out. And I'm like, you look like you're 40. Like, what are you talking about? So we casted her, but again, like, I think no first-time director gets that privilege, you know? For she was like, I'll even screen test for you if you want me to, just so you can be sure. And I was like, what? Like, I was like, no, I'm not gonna make you screen test. But she brought that ethos to the movie. She understood what we were trying to make and how we wanted to make it. And her daughter came to set and basically joined our production as like an intern, and she hung out with my mom, and she developed a friendship with my mom that I wasn't even privy to. And they shared conversations about me and the hardships about raising, you know, two children in America. And she brought a lot of that to the performance. And she's like a dear friend now. But I really think of like what she gave the movie separate from her performance. It was like truly a dream, yeah. Are we out of time?
I think we're almost, but we're not sure.
Oh, I was just thinking of, what was that quote that you said where she's like, oh, I love working with young people. You give me so much hope, or you have so much hope.
We wrapped, and then it was like the second to last day we wrapped her. And we're like, Joan, speech. And she's like, okay. She's like, it's so great to work with such a young crew. You guys all still have so much hope. And we were like, okay.
I love that. How are we doing on time? Okay. Let's take one or two audience questions, if anybody has any. Oh, yes.
We're gonna throw candy to whoever asks the question. Starting easy.
Well, I was actually thinking, wanted to maybe ask about the costume in the movie. Just because my sister was around Vivian's age during this era, and like everything that she was wearing, I think my sister owned those like exact same clothing, like the vest and like the sweatshirt with like, and the haircut too, and yeah, the sweatshirt with the pandas on it.
Yeah, the pandas.
Yeah, and then I feel like the costumes, I know it also kind of maybe has some significance with the sweatshirt that Vivian leads to. So I was thinking like if you could maybe talk a little bit about what the process was like coming up with the costume, and yeah, like how you guys deal with that.
Thank you. Do you want me to take
Should we
it?
face them?
Yeah, let's try to face
Should we
it.
face them, our costume
Would you
designer?
like to answer?
It might be the only question we get to answer, but well, I mean, you know, both Brianna and I, we really looked through our yearbooks too, and there were certain articles of clothing like Wang Wang's Cali Skate sweater that I was kind of like, I really want that in the movie. There were a lot of pieces of clothing that were really personal to me that I was like, I really want that in the movie. And then she kind of went through her yearbooks, and I went through my yearbooks, and we kind of started to collage this sort of like tapestry of clothes that would give you like a visceral experience seeing it. And that was kind of, you know, Shirley's vest, and for me it was, you know, Livestrong bands and these little things that felt like, oh, that's distinctly 2008.
outsourced clothes from her friends, like from their closets, and we're like the belt that I wear. Is this like, is she picking up?
Not picking up. This is the first time we got a no-show on FaceTime. Damn.
She doesn't know she's
Alright, I'm gonna show her what she's missing out on. Everyone wave.
Yay.
Sad.
Aw.
We did a Spike Jones moderation Q&A the other day, and we FaceTime Soup, and Soup goes, I go, hey Spike, I go, hey Aaron, say hi to Spike, and Aaron goes, hey Mike.
I love that. I think we can do one more audience question. I see over there.
Hi, so I was curious about the storyline with the absent father, and I just wanted to know in drafting the story, was there ever a version where you brought the father into the home, or was he always kind of just this absent
The mascot that you can't get, like. There were early drafts of the movie, maybe like he went away on a business trip, but I think the thing I wanted to really, the creative challenge with this version of the story was, we talked about his character as like a phantom. Like, can you have his presence be felt throughout every scene in the movie, but you never hear or see him? You see him once at the end when, you know, he walks in the movie, and that was that. It was like, how does his absence affect every person in the family without seeing or hearing him? And so there were early drafts where like maybe, you know, mom's on the phone with him or Chris is on the phone with him. But then it kind of felt like, oh, we can make his, someone gave me a note and it was really good. It was like, you have to feel his, it was like he has to be present in his absence. And so however we can set that up, then you kind of feel it throughout the whole movie. Sorry, that wasn't a good answer, but yeah.
That's a great answer. Thank you so much. Thank you all for coming. Let's hear it for Judy.